Well, Jake Thompson said, his voice dry as ever. This just got a lot more interesting. Dr. Elena Vasquez tightened her grip on her medical kit, her mind racing. We need a plan, and we need it now. That thing isn't going to wait for us to figure things out. Raj Patel, his hands still smeared with grease from rigging the sound system, stepped forward. I've got an idea, but it's crazy. Even for us. Lila Chun, her eyes wide but focused, nodded. Crazy is better than nothing. What are you thinking? Raj gestured to the colony's power grid. If we overload the generators, we can create an EMP burst strong enough to fry the Queen's nervous system. But it'll take out our systems too. Lights, comms, everything. Scholar ZYX, their delicate hands clasped together, spoke up. Such an action would be extreme, but if it neutralizes a threat, it may be our only option. Jake raised an eyebrow. You're saying we go dark to take her down? Risky, but I like it. Dr. Vasquez nodded. Do it. We'll cover you. As Raj hurried to the power grid, the rest of the team prepared for the final stand. Jake took up a position on the colony's makeshift barricade, his rifle trained on the Queen. Lila and the scholars worked to amplify the Predator's sounds, hoping to keep the smaller KRYLL at bay. Dr. Vasquez moved among the defenders, offering words of encouragement and tending to the wounded. The Queen advanced, her massive legs crushing everything in her path. The defenders opened fire, but their weapons barely scratched her armor. Jake's shots were precise, aiming for the joints and gaps in her exoskeleton, but even he couldn't slow her down. Raj, any time now, Jake shouted, his voice barely audible over the chaos. In the power grid, Raj's hands flew over the controls. Almost there, he muttered, his brow furrowed in concentration. Just a little more. The Queen reached the barricade, her mandibles snapping as she tore through the defenses. Jake tossed a grenade at her, the explosion forcing her back momentarily, but she quickly recovered. We're running out of time, he yelled. Got it, Raj exclaimed, slamming his hand down on the control panel. The generators whined as they surged, their lights flickering wildly before going dark. A pulse of energy rippled through the air, and the Queen let out a deafening screech as her body convulsed. She collapsed to the ground, her massive form twitching as the EMP fried her nervous system. The colony fell silent, the only sound the faint hum of the generators powering back up. The defenders stared at the fallen Queen, their relief palpable. Jake lowered his rifle, a slow grin spreading across his face. Well, that worked. Dr. Vasquez let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Good work, everyone. But we're not done yet. We need to make sure the rest of the KRYLL are gone. Lila and the scholars activated the Predator's sounds once more, the forest echoing with the roars and howls of Earth's apex predators. The remaining KRYLL, now leaderless and disoriented, retreated into the darkness, their chittering fading into the distance. As the team regrouped, Scholar ZYX approached Dr. Vasquez, their expression one of awe. Your species is remarkable. You faced an impossible threat and emerged victorious. We have much to learn from you. Dr. Vasquez smiled faintly, and we have much to learn from you as well. This wasn't just our victory. It was ours together. Jake clapped Raj on the shoulder. Not bad for a greased monkey. Raj grinned. Not bad for a glorified babysitter. Lila laughed, the sound breaking the tension. We did it. We actually did it. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, the team stood together, their bond stronger than ever. The KRYLL were gone, the colony was safe, and humanity had proven its worth. Not just to the alien scholars, but to themselves. We bought ourselves some time, Dr. Elena Vasquez said, her voice steady despite the fatigue in her eyes. But we need a permanent solution. The sonic deterrent won't hold them off forever. Raj Patel leaned against the console, his arms crossed. The fence is fried, and the generators are on their last legs. If they come back in force, we're toast. Lila Chun, Her usual enthusiasm tempered by the gravity of the situation, studied the map intently. "The KRYL are coming from the forest," she said, pointing to a dense cluster of trees on the hologram. "If we can figure out what's drawing them here, maybe we can cut them off at the source." Jake Thompson, ever the pragmatist, snorted. "Yeah, because wandering into a KRYL-infested forest sounds like a great plan." Dr. Vasquez ignored his sarcasm. "Lila's right. We need to understand their behavior if we're going to stop them. But we can't just charge in blindly. We need a strategy." Scholar ZYX, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "On our world, we study ecosystems to understand the relationships between species. Perhaps a similar approach could be useful here." Lila's eyes lit up. "Exactly. If we can identify what's attracting the KRYL, we can use it against them." Raj raised an eyebrow. "You're talking about baiting a trap. With what? A giant neon sign that says free lunch?" Jake smirked. "I volunteer Raj as tribute." Before Raj could retort, Dr. Vasquez held up a hand. "Enough. We need to focus." "Lila, what do you have in mind?" Lila hesitated, then took a deep breath. "Earth's predators use sound and movement to communicate and intimidate. What if we use recordings of Earth's apex predators, lion roars, wolf howls, that kind of thing, to scare the KRYL away?" The room fell silent. Scholar ZYX's eyes widened in horror. "You propose to weaponize your planet's predators? This is highly unorthodox." "It's also genius," Raj said, a grin spreading across his face. "If we can make the KRYL think there's something even scarier out there, they might back off for good." Jake nodded slowly. "It's risky, but it might work. We'd need to set up speakers in the forest, though, and someone would have to get close enough to plant them." Dr. Vasquez looked around the room, her gaze settling on each team member in turn. "We don't have a lot of options. If we're going to do this, we need to move fast. Raj, can you rig the speakers?" Raj nodded. "I'll need some time, but yeah, I can make it work." "Lila, work with the scholars to compile the recordings. Jake, you're with me. We'll scout the forest and identify the best locations for the speakers." Scholar ZYX stepped forward, their expression conflicted. "We cannot condone violence, but if this plan can save lives, we will assist." Dr. Vasquez gave them a grateful nod. "Thank you. Your expertise could make all the difference." The forest was eerily quiet as Dr. Vasquez and Jake moved through the undergrowth, their footsteps muffled by the thick layer of fallen leaves. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying vegetation, and the occasional rustle of leaves sent Jake's hand instinctively to his rifle. "You sure about this?" Jake asked, his voice low. "We're walking right into their territory." Dr. Vasquez adjusted the scanner in her hand, her eyes focused on the readout. "We don't have a choice. If we can find their nest, we can plant the speakers and end this." As they ventured deeper into the forest, the signs of KRYL activity became more pronounced. Claw marks on tree trunks, discarded exoskeletons, and the faint, acrid smell of their pheromones. Dr. Vasquez paused, her scanner beeping softly. "This is it," she said, pointing to a large, hollowed-out tree. "Their nest." Jake's grip tightened on his rifle. "Great. Now what?" "Now we plant the speakers and get out of here." Back at the colony, Raj was putting the finishing touches on the makeshift sound system, his hands moving with practiced precision. Lila and the scholars had compiled a library of predator sounds, from the deep rumble of a lion's roar to the eerie howl of a wolf. Scholar ZYX watched with a mixture of fascination and unease. "This is unsettling," they admitted. "But if it works, it will be a testament to your species' ingenuity." Lila smiled. "That's the idea." When Dr. Vasquez and Jake returned, the team moved quickly to deploy the speakers in the forest. The process was tense, every rustle and snap of twigs setting their nerves on edge, but they managed to place the devices without incident. As they retreated to the colony, Raj activated the sound system. The forest erupted with the sounds of Earth's predators, a cacophony of roars, howls, and growls that echoed through the trees. The effect was immediate. The KRLO's chittering rose to a panic crescendo as they fled deeper into the forest. The team watched from the colony's perimeter, their relief palpable. "It's working," Lila said, her voice filled with awe. But their celebration was short-lived. A low, guttural growl emanated from the forest, followed by the sound of trees being uprooted. A massive KRYLO queen emerged, her chitinous armor glistening in the moonlight, her mandibles clicking menacingly. Jake cursed under his breath. "Of course there's a queen." Dr. Vasquez's expression hardened. "This isn't over yet. We need to take her down." Scholar ZYX stepped forward, their voice trembling but resolute. "We will help. This is no longer just your fight." The team exchanged determined glances. The KRYLO Queen was a formidable foe, but they had faced impossible odds before. Together, they would find a way to win. Dr. Elena Vasquez followed, her medical kit in hand, while Raj Patel and Lila Chun brought up the rear, hauling equipment between them. The alien scholars hesitated at the shuttle's ramp, their shimmering robes fluttering in the wind. Scholar ZYX stepped forward, their large eyes wide with apprehension. "This is overwhelming," they said, their melodic voice trembling. "We are not equipped for such violence." "Welcome to the frontier," Jake muttered, already moving toward the colony's command center. "Stick with us, and you'll be fine." The team pushed through the settlement, dodging panicked colonists and the occasional KRYLL scout. The insectoid creatures were nightmarish, six-legged, with chitinous armor and razor-sharp mandibles that clicked menacingly as they skittered through the shadows. Jake took down a few with precise shots, his movements calm and deliberate. "They're fast," he said, reloading, "but they're not smart. Stick to cover and watch your flanks." In the command center, the colony's leader, a harried woman named Commander Hayes, was coordinating a desperate defense. "We've lost the eastern sector," she said, her voice hoarse. "If we don't hold the main gate, they'll overrun us." Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. "We're here to help. What do you need?" Hayes glanced at the alien scholars, her expression a mix of surprise and suspicion, but she didn't question their presence. "We need to reinforce the perimeter and buy time for the civilians to evacuate. But we're running low on power for the fence, and our weapons are barely slowing them down." Raj immediately began rummaging through his toolkit. "I can rig the fence to draw power from the colony's backup generators," he said, his fingers flying over a diagnostic panel. "It won't last long, but it might give us a fighting chance." Lila, meanwhile, was studying a holographic map of the colony. "The KRYLL are coming from the forest," she said, her brow furrowed. "If we can figure out what's drawing them here, maybe we can cut them off at the source." Scholar ZYX stepped forward, their voice tentative. "On our world, we use sonic frequencies to deter pests. Perhaps a similar approach could be effective here." Jake raised an eyebrow. "You're saying we blast them with noise?" "It's worth a shot," Lila said, her eyes lighting up. "If we can find the right frequency, we might be able to disorient them." Dr. Vasquez nodded. "Do it. Raj, get that fence up and running. Lila, work with the scholars on the sonic deterrent. Jake, you're with me. We'll hold the gate." The team sprang into action. Raj disappeared into the colony's power grid, his hands a blur as he rerouted circuits and bypassed damaged systems. Lila and the scholars set up a makeshift lab in the command center, using the colony's limited tech to generate and test sound frequencies. Meanwhile, Dr. Vasquez and Jake joined the defenders at the main gate, where the KRYLL were pressing their attack. The battle was fierce. The KRYLL swarmed the gate, their mandibles snapping and their claws scraping against the reinforced metal. Jake's rifle barked steadily, each shot dropping a KRYL, but there were too many to hold back for long. Dr. Vasquez tended to the wounded, her hands steady despite the chaos around her. "We can't hold them forever," she said, her voice tight with urgency. Back in the command center, Lila and the scholars were making progress. "This frequency," Lila said, adjusting the controls. "It's close, but it needs more modulation." Scholar ZYX leaned in, their delicate fingers dancing over the console. "If we adjust the harmonics, we might achieve the desired effect." Raja's voice crackled over the comms. "Fence is back online, but it's unstable. You've got 5 minutes, tops." "We're almost there," Lila replied, her focus unwavering. "Just a little more." The gate shuddered under the KRLL's assault, the metal groaning as it began to buckle. Jake tossed a grenade into the swarm, the explosion buying them a few precious seconds. "Any time now," he shouted. "Got it," Lila exclaimed, her face lighting up with triumph. She activated the sonic emitter, and a low, pulsing tone filled the air. The effect was immediate. The KRYLL recoiled, their chittering rising to a panic crescendo as they scrambled away from the gate. The defenders cheered, but Dr. Vasquez held up a hand. "Don't celebrate yet. We need to make sure they don't regroup." Raj emerged from the power grid, his face smeared with grease but grinning. "Fence is holding, but it's on borrowed time. We need a permanent solution." Lila turned to the scholars. "Can we amplify the signal? Drive them back to the forest?" Scholar ZYX nodded. "With the colony's comm array, we can broadcast the frequency across a wider area, but it will require precise calibration." "Do it," Dr. Vasquez said. "We'll cover you." As the scholars worked on the comm array, Jake kept watch, his rifle at the ready. "You know," he said, his tone dry, "for a bunch of pacifists, they're not bad in a crisis." Dr. Vasquez smiled faintly. "They're learning, just like we are." The comm array came online with a hum, the sonic frequency spreading out in a wave that sent the KRYLL retreating into the forest. The colony fell silent, the only sound the distant chittering of the insectoids as they fled. The defenders slumped in exhaustion, their relief palpable. Scholar ZYX approached Dr. Vasquez, their expression thoughtful. "Your species is remarkable. You faced danger with courage and ingenuity. Perhaps there is much we can learn from you." Dr. Vasquez nodded. "And perhaps there's much we can learn from you as well. This isn't over yet, but today, we've shown what we can do when we work together." As the team regrouped, the alien scholars watched the humans with newfound respect. The KRYLL had been driven back, but the battle had only just begun. And in the face of such adversity, humanity's unique strengths were beginning to shine. The Galactic Academic Consortium's research vessel, Stellar Seeker, descended through Earth's atmosphere with a faint hum, its sleek silver hull reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. Below, the sprawling research outpost nestled in the Alaskan wilderness buzzed with activity. Dr. Elena Vasquez adjusted her jacket against the crisp autumn air and glanced at her team. "Remember," she said, her voice calm but firm, "they're here to study us as much as we're here to study them. First impressions matter." Beside her, Raj Patel smirked, his hands buried in the pockets of his grease-streaked overalls. "Yeah, because nothing says welcome to Earth like a bunch of aliens realizing we keep wolves in our living rooms." His dark eyes sparkled with mischief, but there was a sharpness to his tone that hinted at his unease. Raj was the outpost engineer, the kind of person who could MacGyver a fusion reactor out of duct tape and sheer willpower. He thrived on solving problems, but diplomacy wasn't exactly his forte. Lila Chun, the youngest member of the team at 26, bounced on her heels, her excitement barely contained. "Do you think they've ever seen a cat? Or a dog? Imagine their faces when they find out we cuddle with predators." Her enthusiasm was infectious, though Dr. Vasquez shot her a warning look. Lila was a dreamer, her mind always racing ahead to the next big idea, but sometimes her idealism needed tempering with practicality. Jake Thompson leaned against the outpost's entrance, his arms crossed and his expression unreadable. A former soldier turned survivalist, Jake was the team's wild card. He rarely spoke unless he had something to say, and when he did, It was usually laced with dry humor or a biting observation. "Let's just hope they don't freak out and vaporize us," he drawled, his voice low. "I've seen enough alien movies to know how this usually goes." The stellar seeker touched down with a soft hiss, its landing struts sinking into the frost-covered ground. A ramp extended, and the alien scholars emerged, their slender forms draped in shimmering robes that seemed to shift colors with every movement. Their large, almond-shaped eyes scanned the surroundings with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her posture confident but open. "Welcome to Earth," she said, her voice carrying the warmth of a seasoned diplomat. "I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez. We're honored to host you." The lead scholar, a tall figure with skin the color of polished jade, inclined their head. "I am Scholar ZYX of the Galactic Academic Consortium. We are grateful for your hospitality." Their voice was melodic, though it carried an undertone of caution. "We have come to study your planet's ecosystems, particularly its predators." Raj snorted softly, earning a sharp elbow from Lila. "Predators, huh? You're in for a treat," he muttered under his breath. The tour began with the Outpost Biolab, where Lila eagerly explained Earth's diverse ecosystems. The scholars listened intently, their expressions growing increasingly troubled as she described apex predators like lions, tigers, and great white sharks. "And then there are the smaller predators," Lila added, her eyes lighting up. "Like cats and dogs. Humans have domesticated them. They're our companions." Scholar ZYX's eyes widened, their delicate hands fluttering in distress. "You keep these creatures in your dwellings? Voluntarily?" "Oh, absolutely," Lila said, pulling up a holographic image of her tabby cat, Mr. Whiskers. "See? He's adorable." The scholars exchanged uneasy glances. "This is highly irregular," ZYX said, their voice trembling slightly. "On our world, predators are eradicated to ensure the safety of all beings. The idea of nurturing them is unsettling." Dr. Vasquez stepped in smoothly. "It's a matter of perspective. Humans have learned to coexist with many species, even those that pose a threat. It's part of what makes us adaptable." The tension in the room was palpable, but before anyone could say more, the outpost comm system crackled to life. "This is Colony Delta 7, a panicked voice said. "We're under attack, requesting immediate assistance." The team froze. Jake was the first to move, striding over to the console. "What's the situation?" he barked. "It's the KRYLL," the voice replied. "They've breached the perimeter. We can't hold them off much longer." Dr. Vasquez turned to the scholars, her expression grave. "The KRYLL are a hostile alien species. They've been raiding colonies along the frontier. We need to help these people." Scholar ZYX hesitated. "Our mandate is to observe, not interfere. We cannot take sides in your conflicts." Raj stepped forward, his usual sarcasm replaced by urgency. "This isn't about taking sides. It's about saving lives. If you want to understand humans, then understand this. We don't abandon our own." The scholars exchanged uneasy glances, but ZYX finally nodded. "Very well. We will accompany you, but we cannot participate in any violence." As the team prepared to depart, Jake caught Dr. Vasquez's eye. "You sure about this?" he asked quietly. "Bringing them along could complicate things." She nodded. "They need to see who we are, Jake. Not just our predators, but our capacity to protect and persevere." The shuttle lifted off, carrying the team and the scholars toward Colony Delta 7. Below, the Alaskan wilderness stretched out in all its untamed glory, a reminder of the world they were fighting to protect. Lila stared out the window, her earlier excitement replaced by determination. "They think we're reckless for keeping predators as pets," she said softly. "But maybe that's what makes us strong. We're not afraid to face the wild." Jake smirked. "Or maybe we're just crazy." As the shuttle sped toward the besieged colony, the alien scholars watched the humans with a mixture of fear and fascination. They had come to study Earth's predators, But they were beginning to realize that the most formidable creatures on this planet might just be the humans themselves.